Hey friends, Ethan Sawyer, college essay guy here, and this is the Social Identities Exercise. It's one of my favorite ones for helping students think about who they are and all the different ways they identify. So, quick side note, if you're a counselor watching this video and working with students through this, I would recommend making sure that you leave some time at the end to allow students to process and reflect on their experience, because sometimes this can really bring up a lot for students. So this is a work through video, which means that if you click below, you'll find a link that will allow you to make a copy of a Google Doc where you'll write down your answers as I walk you through this. So I'm going to be actually doing this exercise along with you, and we're going to take like 5 minutes for the first part, and I'll put a little timer right here. And then once we do that, I'll tell you what we're going to do next and how we're going to kind of reflect on it. So it's pretty simple. You should have a copy of the Google Doc by now. If not, pause the video and make a copy. But what I want you to do is I want you to spend 5 minutes, and I want you to fill in as many different identities as you can find for yourself, just based on what's listed here on the Google Doc. And I want you to define identities broadly, okay? If one of the categories doesn't connect with you, or you feel like, you know what, that's not really me, or you don't feel comfortable writing something down, you don't have to. But let's spend 5 minutes starting now and just fill this in. And I'm going to do it along with you. One thing you could note, if it's changed for you, if you wanted to write, you know, it used to be this, but now it's more like this. I think that's interesting too. Feel free to get creative or a little outside the box with this if you want. Okay, so feel free to pause the video if you want to spend a little more time on this, but when you're ready, I want you to scroll down in the Google Doc and you'll see some instructions. So the first thing I want you to do is to, in the column, which is to the right, it has a little hashtag. I want you to put a number 1 next to the identity that would have the least impact if it was removed from your life. So it's the one maybe you think about the least, or you're like, oh, if that was gone, I'd be pretty much the same, not too different. And then you're gonna write a number 2, next to the one that would have the next least impact, okay? And what you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna number up to however many you've got, 10 or 15. 10 or 15, whatever the number is, the highest one is gonna be the one that you feel like is the most important, the most forward in your life, that you can't imagine taking that identity away. Pause the video if you need to, but I want you to take a minute to essentially number these 1 through however many you've got. 1 being the sort of least important to you, the one that would have the least impact if removed, all the way up to the one that would have the biggest impact if removed. And so that, whatever the highest number is going to the one that has the most weight in terms of the impact on how you interact with others in your daily life. Now, again, pause the video if you need to. I'm going to move on to some of these reflection questions. You probably haven't had enough time to do it, so go ahead and pause, and when everybody's ready or when you're ready to move on, we can move on. So here are some of the reflection questions that I want you to consider. And they're listed, again, in the doc. But some of the ones that I'm interested in, having you think about are, which identity did you remove first? Did that surprise you or not so much? Was there an identity that you feel really proud of that you looked at? Or maybe there was an identity that you feel like you know the least about. If you want, you can put P next to the one you're proud of and like L next to the one that you're like least about. Maybe there's an identity that you lead with, like in your interactions, it's out in front. Or maybe there's an identity that you keep hidden, that not a lot of people get to know. Or at least maybe you don't reveal that identity until you feel like you really trust someone. So spend a couple minutes just filling in some of those reflection questions. Again, I just want to remind you that anything you put on here, it's for you. You don't have to share it with anybody else, and it's totally optional. So if you don't want to write anything, it's okay. Maybe you can just think about it. Okay, so pause the video if you need to. And I want to say that a great next step for this, if you're in a group or if you've got somebody else nearby, would just be to take a few minutes and just share a little bit. Maybe you can take turns with a partner on what did you notice that as you were doing this exercise? Was there anything that surprised you as you were filling this out? If you're still filling the exercise out, go ahead and pause. You might talk to somebody and just listen to what they noticed, what they might have been surprised by. And if you're paired up with somebody, as a partner, all you need to do is just listen and be curious. And then if you want to, another cool next step is to share, once your partner has shared, once they've said what they wanted to say, what did you notice as they were sharing? What did it make you think of? So there's so much that you can do with this exercise. I want to encourage you to take your time with it and continue sharing with either your counselor or your teacher or your peers what came up for you as you did this exercise. Again, it's optional. If you're like, you know what, I just want to kind of keep this to me, that's totally fine too. I hope that exercise was interesting, at least, hopefully useful. There are so many ways that you can apply this to the college essay and application process. It could be that you use this to brainstorm personal statement ideas. It could be that you use this for supplemental essays. You'll find out lots more about uses for this exercise if you go to collegeessayguy.com, and I'll talk to you soon.